everyone, and welcome back to another comparison video. So this is a very special video to me. I'm here with my assistant today, which she's gonna help me film this new video. Well, this is gonna be an interesting one. Let's dive in. What I have on my right is my 2007 Suzuki DRZ400S, which you probably watched the intro video and the update video about my build. And what I have on my left is the new to me 2013 Honda XR650L. Alright, are you ready to jump in? 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess I'm lucky to have these two bikes at the same time. I know like a lot of you might have these as well, but to me it took some time and some hard work to be able to have these two bikes both in like mostly stock form to be able to do that comparison, because the thing is, between these two bikes, when you look up online and when you search online, there are a ton of different information. And the other thing is, XR has its own fan base, DRZ has its own fan base, and they are huge. Like for the XR650L, this bike, they have started building this bike starting from 1993, and they are still building these brand new, literally 30 years in making these. And the DRZ400S, in the other hand, they start building these, I think, since 2000, 2001. And literally, it's been like 20 years that they are making the DRZ as well. Great history, all the issues are now, right now, and you can never go wrong with either of them. But at the same time that they have like a lot of similarities, they have some significant differences as well. So now that we talked about the history, let's talk a little bit about the specs. I'm not going to dive deep because there are huge information online, you can find them. I'm not going to talk about the horsepower. What am I going to talk for the most part today is how they feel differently, no matter the CCs, the suspensions and whatsoever, about the feel, like how they feel on road, off road, right? So XR650L, almost 650 cc's, around roughly 40 horsepowers. DRZ400 398, almost 400 cc. I think it's got like 34, 35 horsepower. But let's talk about the differences. Well, I was looking on the marketplace and I found this XR650L not as an upgrade to the DRZ, but for the most part to compare them to see how they feel differently and possibly keep one of them and sell the other one, right? I've spent probably like 2-3 weeks on the saddle on both of these bikes. So to me, I'm 6 feet tall and I'm like 150 pounds. That's my weight. So you can tell like this is for my height and my weight, and this is how it feels different. First thing first, let's talk about the weight, because that's one of the biggest debates between both fan bases of these two bikes. A lot of people say like the XR is a heavy bike, the DRZ is like, it feels lighter, and that's right. So to me, DRZ feels much lighter. But much lighter, I mean, if I'm on a trail and if I drop the DRZ, I'm 100% confident that I can pick it up, right? With the XR650, it doesn't mean that I can't pick it up, but I don't have that confidence in the DRZ about the weight for the most part, right? And that leads to another thing. So when I have that confidence to the weight of my bike, that I'm like, okay, if I drop it, I can pick it up easily, I can push it harder on dirt, right? So if I'm not that confident on my bike, for the most part, for the weight of it, I'll be a little bit more, cautious to not to drop the bike, or don't get to that situation that I have to drop the bike. So from when it comes to the weight, obviously DRZ feels lighter, right? But when you're on the saddle, when you're like on the street, when you're just riding around the town, honestly they both feel very similar. But the thing is, with DRZ, like a lot of time you feel that you really need that 6-speed, right? They both have like 5-speed transmissions, gearboxes, right? But you feel that lack of six gear on DRZ. But honestly, I've never felt that on the XR650L, even though on the highway, right? So now, speaking of highway, if I want to talk about the comfort zones, like that comfortable speed, on the DRZ with stock gearing, normally like the range of 60 to 70 is, 65 I'd say is the comfortable zone that you're like, okay, when I'm riding on 65, I'm not just putting the engine under a lot of pressures, it's not like crazy screaming, but like the moment that you go over 60, 65, you hear that bike begging and screaming, and since you always look for that 6th gear and you realize there's no gear anymore, right? I mean, I'm not complaining, but that's really the truth, right? But it doesn't mean that it can't take the highway, right? But you gotta be a little bit more cautious, and that makes it a little bit more tiring on the highway. XR definitely does much better, even though on the forums and online people say no, they both can't handle highway like on the same level, but honestly that's not true. XR does it much better on the highway. Even with the knobbies, I can easily go 80, 75, 80 on the highway without feeling that I need the 6th gear, right? But the other thing is, in both bikes, when you push them to 65 on DRZ and 75, 80 on the XR, they both are very wobbly on the highway. It almost gets scary when you pass that threshold. It gets shaky, it gets wobbly, they both, like the front end feels, you need to really work hard to put them in the straight line, right? The other thing is, when you are just riding around the town, on the XR, the distance between 1st and 2nd gear is very high on the XR, so basically you don't feel that need to, to change the gears very often. And then, speaking about the comfortability, like the ride, how comfortable they are in stock form. I know that there are like a lot of suspension upgrades, seat upgrades, right? But in stock form, I'd say XR seat is much more cushy, as you can see, it has like more cushion, and the position of the seat is somehow, more comfortable and less tiring than DRZ, because DRZ has a very narrow seat. Even though the cushion is still soft, but in compared to XR, it's a little bit more tough. XR is much softer, the cushion. Because of that, you don't get that tired on the XR. But I know, if you get any like seat concepts or anything like that, that makes DRZ almost as comfortable. But the other thing is, for my weight, 150 pounds, this stock suspension on XR feels much better, because I think I need to take my DRZ to adjust the suspension for my weight, because to me it feels very tough. Suspension on the DRZ is much more modern than the XR, right? So for the most part, ride comfortability, XR for long range, right? When it comes to the aftermarket support and the options that you have for your bike, for some reason for DRZ you have much more options. Front fenders, headlights, plastics, different colors of plastics, like rear racks, luggages, exhaust, So basically, if you want to buy a bike and you love to update and modify the bike to your taste, you can do much more with the DRZ. But XR, for the most part, it's not like that. There are like a lot of upgrades that you can do to it, but for the most part, there isn't like a ton of variety, When it comes to social media, I was doing a research on Instagram, basically on the DRZ. Let's see. I wanted to see like how many hashtags are available for the DRZ400 and how many hashtags are available for the XR650, right? So for the DRZ400, there are 154,000 posts on Instagram. For the XR650L, there are 37,000 posts. Basically, the amount of the posts available on social media on the DRZ is much more than the XR. There are a ton more content for the DRZ than the XR. One of the major differences between these two bikes is the XR is air-cooled and DRZ is water-cooled. So XR tend to have less parts to break. DRZ is still very reliable bike. I haven't heard anything like any people complain about DRZ not being reliable, or that, you know, being water cooled just causes them like any issues when it comes to reliability. The other thing is the ground clearance. XR has more ground clearance than the DRZ, but still DRZ is just more than enough for whatever you do to it. When it comes to the handling, one more difference that I felt was, you know, I used to the DRZ, and then when I jumped on the XR felt so front end heavy, you know. So, you know, DRZ feels very nimble, front end feels very light. You can easily, you know, take the corners, and it's very under control. But with XR, it felt the front end has like twice the weight. You get used to it after a while that you ride the bike. And overall, about the look and feel of them, I believe, this is my personal opinion, right? I believe DRZ looks more modern than the XR. XR, obviously 10 years older, and it still looks like a vintage, which is nice, nothing bad. One more thing, the seat height, they both feel exactly the same tall. I mean, I'm 6 feet, I tiptoe on both of them. The seat height on both of them, DRZ and XR, is exactly the same. Alright, that was it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Again, you know, you can never go wrong with any of these two bikes. Any of them, they have their own benefits, their own, you know, pros and cons. If you're looking for those like long range, you know, road trips kind of stuff, definitely you can go with the XR. But it doesn't mean that DRZ can't do it, but you gotta go a little bit slower, obviously, right? DRZ is a more like nimble, more maneuverable bike around the town, on the dirt, you know. Or the other thing is, you know, for a person like me, you know, I'm like 150 pounds, you know. For a lightweight person like me, all the time I look for the lighter bike. I was even exploring the DR200, Suzuki DR200, right? Even after doing this video and having these two bikes for like 3 weeks at the same time riding them, I can't still decide which one I'm gonna keep and which one I'm gonna sell. They both are a blast to ride. I'd say if you don't have much preferences and you don't know what you're gonna do, you just look for the first one with the better condition and, you know, more reasonable price. Both of these bikes, they are very high demand. So if you buy one of them and if you ride them and if you don't like them, you can always sell and get your money back on. So again, thanks for watching this video and hope it was helpful to you. So if you have any comments, if you think I missed something about any of these bikes, post in the comments. And again, in the comments, let me know which one is your preference. Which one do you prefer better? Did I miss anything? Cheers. Stay safe out there. Enjoy.